Hello and welcome to the Juan podcast. If you're enjoying the show, consider signing up for the Patreon. There you get ad-free content, early access, exclusive episodes, and monthly supporter hangouts. You can find it at patreon.com/the Juan podcast. If you don't like the subscription-based models, there are other ways of supporting the show that are linked in the description. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Juan on Juan podcast with your host, Juan Ayala.
The footprint was so defined. Like you can see the toes, not just the pad of the toe, but you can see the actual, how it extends. And most people aren't used to seeing that. Then, because I'm shocked at this point, I was not expecting to find this print. So I'm looking down at it, totally off guard, like trying to record myself at the same time. And all of a sudden, this huge black just mass goes darting across the trail. And I'm just like totally taken back. And I hear it and I'm like, I hear it run and it stops. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, and I actually look at the camera and I say, I think I'm about to get eaten by Bigfoot.
Welcome back to another episode of the Juan podcast. I'm your host. As always, make sure to follow me on social media at the Juan podcast. And TJOJP is our website now, tjojp.com. Make sure to follow that good stuff. Links are in the description. And today we are joined by a first timer. And we got connected, and I've known your brother for a while now, so welcome to the show, Brian. What's up, man? Black Mass Paranormal. What's up?
What's up, man? Yeah, it's kind of funny how we ended up getting connected. So, you know,
can you let people?
You've probably heard. I mean, he's got to have told you some of the stuff, hasn't he?
He has. But before we get into it, Brian, can you plug your social media and your YouTube channel and stuff for people to find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Black Mass Paranormal on YouTube. On Instagram. I'm trying to do the TikTok thing, but you know, it's a little bit difficult for me. But yeah, I got a Facebook page. It's easiest to contact me through the Facebook. I usually respond the quickest.
Awesome. Send me those links after. And yeah, your brother has told me some things, but whenever I remember the first time I ever went fly fishing with him, he had told me he thought it was a joke. The first time ever, we were in the Smoky Mountains, and we had been fishing for a while, and I asked him, and I've told the story a whole bunch of times on the podcast because he never came on the show, and I would always text him and ask him to come on the show, and he would. So yeah. He told me he's seen Bigfoot 5 times. And then this last time that we were on the river, he told me we were on a river where he'd seen Bigfoot and Dogmen. Because it was near some portal or Stargate or something. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Dude, he and that's the thing. But also with Jason, you got to remember that he's a fishing guide. So for him to tell stories about the things that he's experienced, because I mean, we've both been, in the mountains, basically our whole lives. That's, what we love to do. That's, where our heart is. So with him being a guide, for him to tell these stories, people are going to want to know where this happened. And, you know, you talk to any type of fisherman, they're not going to want to tell you their spots, man. That's their bread and butter. So, in dealing with the paranormal and dealing with these things, can be a very personal experience. It's for a lot of people, it's hard to come out and say exactly what happened without, the fear of being considered crazy or, looked down on. And I guess the whole atmosphere, or not the atmosphere, the idea of it has people are becoming a little bit more receptive to it now. But, ever since I was a kid, and the first thing that I experienced with Jason. And ever since then, I've just been fascinated with it, just like, what the heck happened, and like telling people about it. And Jason's always just been like, dude, calm down, calm down. But yeah, man,
What was that
he's
first
seen
thing,
some
bro?
awesome stuff. It was a UFO at our house. Behind our house, we just had like acres and acres of wood, like wood line. And then in the middle of that wood line, there was a farm, and they had like some cows. I think they had some horses and, whatever. And then after that, it was more wood line until eventually you hit the main interstate. But it was just kind of like a pass through. So in the middle of the night, I hear in Jason's back window, or Jason's bedroom window, was facing the wood line, and he would always sleep with his blinds open, and usually even with his window open. And one night, I'm laying in bed, he's laying in bed, like the whole house is quiet, and he just starts freaking out, like losing his freaking mind in this room. And I jump out of bed and I go running into his room because it's my older brother. I'm like, why are you yelling? I'm the one that's supposed to be yelling. And he's just staring, and he points out the window. He's like pointing at the window. And then at that point, I look up and I see it, and it's like this huge craft. And what I can remember of it, there was like this red line. It was very like triangular almost in shape. And we're both just kind of staring at this thing. And then my mom comes in the room and she's looking at it. We're all just kind of staring out the window at this massive craft that's floating above the wood line. And then all of a sudden it's just like it's like gone. And the way that it moved was just I don't even know how to explain it. Like if you were in like a movie and they do the real quick zoom out, but like 100 times faster than that. Like it was just like gone. So that was an experience that, really triggered my mind into how I viewed the world. So it was really interesting.
That
So
was
next time you're on the river with him, ask him about it.
that was in Tennessee. You guys have been in Tennessee all your lives?
Yeah. Yep.
So what is it about Tennessee, Brian? Because as of lately, you and I were talking a little bit before the show, you were talking about how one of the things that has really perked me up as of lately, and one of my guilty pleasures is like listening to like Bigfoot and like Cryptid podcasts. Cause when I'm like,
oh yeah,
when I'm on a road trip or something, I'll listen to it. And the reason I don't like to listen to it a lot, because I'm the kind of person where if I'm not learning anything from it, I usually don't listen to it, right? Because I'm a researcher.
Yeah.
And these stories, it's stories, right? I mean, it's people's experiences, but it's real to them. And I went to Tennessee as of lately, and there's something about Tennessee, bro. What's up in Tennessee that is something's up, bro. There's Dogman sightings. There's all kinds of stuff. But Dogman's real hot right now. Is there a reason for that, dude, or do you think that there's
Right.
something going on?
No, I mean, I don't think that there's been a dramatic change. The only dramatic change that's happened is the amount of people that are actually coming to Tennessee. Like, our population has just absolutely exploded because, people are trying to get out of the big cities, and, they see the shows on TV about Appalachian living, and they're like, oh, I want a farm and I want a simple life, with, strong male role models. But really and truly in Appalachia, it's just always kind of been like that. But everybody lived in the big cities. Now everybody's coming down and they're in East Tennessee. And it's like there's more people that are in the woods now. It's, which really kind of baffles me. Like, I've seen more people on the trails now than I have in like my entire life. But they're going out there and they're experiencing this stuff that's but just kind of like, well, it's just the way that it is. I mean, it's just part of it. Um, but as far as why is Tennessee different? Well, mainly what a lot of people don't realize is that East Tennessee is all limestone. Okay, so there are cave systems that occur all throughout East Tennessee. For instance, Neyland Stadium, the Stadium of the Vols. There's actually caves that go underneath Neyland Stadium, and they have to pump concrete under the stadium every couple of years just to keep it from collapsing. So there's all sorts of caverns and places that these cryptids can basically stay out of sight for the most part. And now that we're having such a population boom, the ground's being disturbed, and a lot of these things are just coming out of the woods. So, yeah.
So they've always been there, obviously. And you said
Oh yeah,
Neyland Stadium. That's in Knoxville, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I never heard about this. Let me pull the picture up real quick. But my whole thing was, why is Tennessee so damn dark? Like, as far as like the lighting, it's really dark, bro. When I was driving through those woods, man.
Yeah. Well, it's the when you get away from city life, that's what a lot of people don't realize is the amount of light pollution that occurs.
Mm-hmm.
And in places like East Tennessee, when you're away from the bigger metropolitan type areas, it gets dark, man. It like, and you can actually see the stars though. But like, you can actually see where you're at on this planet rather than just looking up and seeing some, cloud of nastiness.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, dude, it definitely gets dark in some places.
When I was in Tennessee, I could breathe fine, right? And I was fine with my sinuses. As soon as I crossed the border with Florida, my sinuses start acting up. I don't know if it's those chemtrails that they're spraying in the air or what, but it's something about those mountains, dude, that it's also peaceful.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stood out to me was the sign that, because I was near Gatlinburg, just outside of it, the sign said Gatlinburg, the gateway to the Smoky Mountains. Almost like it was some sort of portal of some sorts that you're entering through, and these things are existing on the other side.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Interesting wording, right? I mean, that they would use that, the gateway, the portal, the to access this other side.
Yeah, Yeah, actually over there on the other side of that is where I found, um, in my opinion, one of the most interesting dog man actually footprints that I've seen. It was out on a trail. Just it was probably, let me think here, probably 15 miles maybe from that sign that you're talking about, in the Smokies, um, where I went out. Somebody had, part of my channel is I have a lot of people reach out to me and tell me their encounters, and I basically share them, with everybody, because a lot of people don't want to go on podcasts. They don't want to put their face on something. They'd rather have me look like a crazy person. So somebody had contacted me and told me about it, and I went out there and looked, just to see what I could find. And sure enough, man, I found this paw print. It was massive. It was like as big as my hand. And I ended up running into somebody who lived up there, and she walked up and she was like, "Hey," she was like, "Have you ever seen something like this?" And I was like, "No." I was like, I was just walking up the trail because I saw that and I recorded it, and I was going to look for more evidence to see if I could find maybe more footprints or some fur or something. And we were sitting there going back and forth. She's like, "I've been coming up here my entire life in this spot, and I have never seen a print that big." And we were both just kind of shocked because it wasn't like a black bear print, it wasn't a mountain lion print, um, but it was definitely some sort of canine almost looking footprint. And I still don't have an explanation for it.
There's
But what was
God.
what was interesting about that whole experience is that whenever I go out to the locations, I always try to determine if something could actually like survive there. Because it's got to have if it's what our interpretation, and I'm just using the base knowledge that we have, is if you're a breathing animal, you're going to need water, a food source, some sort of shelter. And when I go up there and I'm moving up the trail, I find this old boar trap, what I thought was a boar trap. Now, afterwards, somebody else had chimed in on my channel and they've been like, "I've been hunting boar like my entire life, and I've never seen a boar trap that big. Like it was set up just like a boar trap." So they were trying to say that it might not be a boar trap, that maybe somebody had an experience with this thing and was actually trying to capture it. But, you know, with the Russian boar population the way that it is now, there's a very good possibility that that an animal of the size of the dog man could survive right where I found those prints. So I thought it was really.
What are you planning on doing, bro, if you ever do come across Dogman? What are you looking to achieve by by
I
looking?
don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. Um, and that's what a lot of people think that I'm crazy for, because the majority of the time I do this stuff alone. Like I go to these locations by myself, and I, in a way, I kind of do that for a reason. Um, I do carry a firearm with me, um, that I feel is the right caliber. So if I needed to defend myself, I could possibly at least give it a shot, you know. But I just want to capture this thing. You know, I want to get it on camera. I want to record it, you know, so we can actually say that this thing, yes, it does exist. Yes, it is out there. Because, you know, I personally believe that there are millions of species of animals that we don't even really know exist. Not just in Appalachia, but, you know, all over the world. And I find it almost ignorant to dismiss the possibility of something like this continuing to exist on Earth. So, but a lot of people also bring in the portal side of it, you know, whether or not it's alien or, you know, it's coming out of the Earth itself, which is a possibility. Um, you know, I've talked to a lot of people in the mountains that say these things come out of the Earth. But yeah, I don't, I'm not sold on that yet.
But because is it? Because I know it's a lot. It's a lot, right? It's a lot to really where we can go from here in this conversation. Because I have a lot of questions. Do you feel that maybe because in Tennessee, where we have Oakridge, which apparently is the center for the Manhattan Project, right? We have that connection there. We have what is it? Some nuclear plants and some shadiness going on there. Could it be possible? Could it be possible that it is some sort of government experiment gone wrong, like some chimera maybe? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, okay, so you have heard of CERN, right?
I have, yes.
Okay, so you know what the Large Hadron Collider is?
I do, yes.
Okay, there's another one that a lot of people don't realize exists. They only think about the one, you know, over in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one in Oakridge. And a lot of people don't realize that. And it was about a year ago. There was this scientist that she came out and was talking about the possibility of being able to open a portal. And then once everybody caught wind of what she was saying, she quickly went back and retracted her statement, saying, "Oh no, you know, there wasn't anything there. You know, we are doing this research, but we're not going to try and open any type of portal." But with that being said, I have heard that they have specific security people there that are trained to handle dealing with situations where they accidentally bring something into our world.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is like our R.I.P.D. that one movie where they're like in charge of the paranormal and the ghosts and stuff like that on Netflix. Have you seen that? Have you seen that show? That movie?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah. So the Hadron Collider, that thing is wild, man.
okay, so we have this collider, and I knew it was somewhere in Tennessee. I just didn't know where exactly. So it is in Oakridge, right? It would make sense. Yes. And the possibility of these portals opening up, because we know that they're messing with stuff that could be considered magic and some other.
Well, it's stuff that, in my opinion, we don't understand. I'm not against this research either. I think it's pretty crucial for us to do this research. I'm a strong believer that I believe that there was an advanced civilization that occurred even before modern Egypt, or our interpretation of, you know, who built the pyramids and things like that. I think that there has been a technology on this planet that is forgotten. But in Oakridge, it's a different feeling, man. But also, I think that Oakridge is where it's at for a reason. Um, I mean,
What's
I
the
know.
lore say of that area? What do the natives say of Oakridge? That in that is it on a ridge? Is it on a certain mountain? Is it something about that
Um,
spot?
no, it's kind of like in somewhat of a bowl in a sense. They put it there in order to protect our research from like getting bombed. Back in the day, it was a pretty far out, away from civilization area, and Oak Ridge, the city, as a result, was a result of like the Manhattan Project.
Gotcha.
Um, but as far as what, if you talk to anybody from Knoxville, Oak Ridge, Loudon, anywhere, everybody says there's some weird shit going on there. So um, I think that they're not only doing specific interesting research there that could possibly change the way human existence is interpreted, but I think that they chose that location because of the Earth's natural special properties. I think they know
Mm-hmm.
what they have, and there's certain places in East Tennessee that a lot of these properties actually can be still, you can experience them. One of my favorite ones is Black Mountain. Black Mountain is an area that was, it's, when you go there, it's like stepping onto a different planet, man. Like the rock formations are different. Like you see in my video, what was it, Sasquatch in the Cumberland Mountains. Yeah, so I mean, look at that view. I mean, it's crazy. So I had gone and I was doing some Bigfoot research there. Yeah, that's so cool. And I had found this old tree that, in my opinion, people argue with me. I had a guy say that he's been a logger for 50 years and that the trees in the area that I was in weren't more than 75 years old. But I literally, in the same video, go to a building that was from like 1889 or something like that. So it was kind of silly. But anyway, so as I am um, walking past this, what I believe is a Native American guide tree, I have this sensation, and it really made me think. You've heard of the missing 411 cases?
Yeah, is it Polides? Is that his name?
Yeah,
Yeah,
David Pilates.
yeah.
Yeah, he always talks about how people can go missing. This was my only time where, in all of this research that I've done, all of these trails that I've gone on, that I've experienced anything like this. But I had gotten off of the trail. I did exactly what David Pilates says not to do. So I get off the trail, and I'm walking past one of these kind of formations that you're showing right now, and I get this whirring sound like in my ears, and you can faintly hear it on audio as I'm walking, and it felt like I was getting pulled into the freaking rock. Like, it was such a weird experience. Like, it made me like get all off balance. Like, I had crazy vertigo, but I stepped forward and I stepped away from it, and then immediately, like, it hit me. I was like, that was a crazy experience. So I feel like that there's possibility a portal here. So, and then after that, I record some of the weirdest freaking sounds I've ever captured in East Tennessee. I mean, it sounds like a monkey. Like, I mean, it's straight up sounds like a monkey. Like, I don't know how to describe it. People said that some of the people in the comments immediately jumped to a barred owl, but it's not a barred owl. There's no way. Like, I mean, it's like very ape-like, and we don't have monkeys here.
So, well, we have monkeys in Florida, bro, and I found out that
Dude,
very
yeah.
early on, dude, that the monkeys in Florida have a deadly disease of herpes that is fatal 95% of the time if they scratch you. So, and they're in the national parks.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
wow. I didn't know that.
yeah, so be careful with the monkeys here in Florida. And I wanted to bring this up because the one story, bro, and I know there's various stories of, and this isn't exactly in Tennessee, but it's close, the land between the lakes. And
Yeah.
I looked up here how close Oakridge is to land between, and of course, it's not that far away, right? It's relatively
Right.
close. So the one story, bro, that really made me a believer, right? A believer in Dogman was the woman and I think it's Cock County. I mean, that's kind of funny, but Cock County, the woman that was bit to death. But then this is fairly recently, and the thing is that they're very kind of shady about the details. Like, oh, it's just, this woman, she was mauled to death by a pack of dogs, but then like nobody really knows exactly. Like, it's very shady, bro. It's super shady. And this, when I was looking at this, I'm like, there's other stories similar to this one of people getting mauled by huge dogs, bro. This is like a reoccurring thing. And when I started to go down this rabbit hole, I was like, no, like this is a phenomenon, bro. And this is what makes me believe in Dogman or whatever it is. And a question I have for you, because there's a distinction to be made, obviously, between, and I've heard stories that Dogman and Bigfoot, they kind of go hand in hand, and that Bigfoot is kind of like the familiar of the Dogman, and he kind of controls him. I've heard stories like that, where there's both Dogman and Bigfoot at the same time. But whenever you hear a Dogman experience, it's almost like it shakes people to their core. Like, it terrifies people to their core, versus a Bigfoot. Like, when they see Bigfoot, it's like, oh, I saw Bigfoot. He's kind of friendly.
Right.
I want to go look for him again. But then when they see Dogman, it's like, I don't ever want to look at the woods ever again.
Well, okay. So, in my opinion, whether or not they're connected or they're not connected, but it is the energy that each one of them produce is kind of, it's different. The energy that a Sasquatch produces makes you feel comfortable. It's weird, but if you think about it,
just wants a hug, bro.
That's not necessarily a good thing. There's a lot of animals in the animal kingdom that are extremely deadly that use that, to their advantage.
You think it's like a mechanism that he uses for like preying on people?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I had a close encounter with Bigfoot. And I was shocked. I was totally shocked. And I went out actually because a friend of mine, this guy named Willis, had set up this game camera in this one like area that was out in the middle of nowhere, and he had captured what kind of looks to be like a Dogman. I mean, the height of it, like, it was a game cam, so it was mounted on a tree, so it wasn't like a boar. It was kind of brownish in color, so it's not a bear because we don't have brown bears here. But he told me exactly where it was, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go out there and look for it. So I go out there, and I had been hiking. I hiked probably 3 or 4 miles. Then I'm like, all right, well, I haven't found a whole lot. I had found some weird prints, but nothing too, definitive. And I start hiking back, and I make it to this complete other side, and it's kind of like this dirt road. and I'm walking down this dirt road, and I look down and I find this Bigfoot print. Like, I mean, clear, defined footprint in the mud, like out in the middle of nowhere. There's no reason any person should be barefoot. Like, you can see the toe, like, and that's one thing that a lot of people have uh, they gave me crap about, because the footprint was so defined. Like, you can see the toes, not just the pad of the toe, but you can see the actual how it extends. And most people aren't used to seeing that. Then, because I'm shocked at this point, I was not expecting to find this print. So I'm looking down at it, totally off guard, like trying to record myself at the same time. And all of a sudden, this huge black just mass goes darting across the trail. And I'm just like totally taken back. And I hear it, and I'm like, I hear it run, and it stops. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just like, and I actually look at the camera and I say, I think I'm about to get eaten by Bigfoot. Like, and I was like legit, like I thought like I was about to die, but it never charged me. It was like it made its presence known, and then just kind of let me go. But in an area where there is a dog man, the closest I think I've ever come to a dog man, was in out near Cumberland Falls. So I was out looking for, as a response to somebody had messaged me, told me that there was a recent sighting there, told me where they were. So I went out there and looked. As I was on my way out there, I started doing some more research, and there's multiple cases of people reporting seeing this thing there. So, like I said in the beginning, whenever I try to go out, I try to look for kind of like a means of survival. You know, could a creature of this size actually survive there? And part of that is looking for shelter. And I find this cave that is kind of carved into the side of the mountain. And so I like walk down, and I go inside the cave, and I'm like shining my light down, and you can see down in this cave where some large creature that was at least probably 6 foot tall had been walking back and forth across the cave, because the side of the cave had, I mean, it had fur in it. It was just like all just streaked with like dirt and grease. And, like, it's a defined line. Some people had said that they saw in that video that they see something actually at the back of the cave, but I didn't. It was kind of a tight area. I mean, not really that tight, but it was kind of a tight area. I was at this point several miles out in the forest by myself, and I wasn't going to walk into a cave, because I mean we do have black bear, but the height of it didn't add up with a black bear, because I mean black bears, some of them can get up to 500-600 pounds, but this height didn't make sense, because then it would be walking on all fours, so that would put it roughly 4 feet off the ground. But yeah, that energy though that I experienced was like scary, man. Like, I mean, it was very, very threatening, but it wasn't, I, I knew I had to leave at that point. I was like, I just got to go. And, when I do these investigations, I get a lot of gripe for it, because I leave, when I get those feelings. But, at the same time, like, I want to go home. I want to be able to show the footage I did get, and I want to be able to keep doing this. So yeah, it's
So was that a Bigfoot encounter, or you said that was a Bigfoot encounter, right? Because you're making it sound more like a dog man, because you you felt
So the
that energy, right?
second half in the cave, I believe that was a dog man.
Okay.
When I found the original footprint in the other place, which I won't release the name of this other place because it's actually a really dangerous place. Like I've been shot at there even. It's one place, and in my videos I actually always try to put the location where I'm at because a lot of people have this interest. Maybe somebody wants to be able to go on an adventure too, and it's the paranormal. I'm not the type of person that wants to make this mine. I want to share it with the world. That's not my intent with my channel. Like, I want people, if I experience something there, I want you to be able to feel like you can go there and you can experience the same exact thing. So,
No, absolutely, and I can respect that. You're not gonna catch me out there by any chance, but by any means. But more power to whoever wants to go there, because I do believe that, because you keep mentioning if a creature of this size can survive in these areas. Well, what if there's
yeah.
more? Where do you stand on the camp of these things being metaphysical more than an actual physical thing? And I know you said that the local lore says that they come from the ground, from inside the ground, they come out. Is
Right.
that hinting at hollow earth, or is that hinting at that they manifest through something in the ground?
Not necessarily even either one of those. We have, like I said in the very start, we have a lot of cave systems here. And me and my brother used to explore a lot of those cave systems. You can't really get into a lot of them now. But even the Native Americans used those cave systems. So my point is with that is a creature of that size could easily hide from, the human population for decades without being discovered because there's not many people that go down in these caves anymore. They're dangerous. They're not stable caves really even at all. So you ought to ask Jason about the time that he fell off the side of a cave one time.
I'll make sure to ask him.
Yeah.
The So do you have any stories of what? Because I'm thinking right now of the Skinwalker and how the Skinwalker, they say that they use, it's some sort of curse that's put on by an opposing tribe onto the people that they're attacking. Is there any stories with that in Bigfoot and Dogman at all?
Well, really, in my, from what my understanding of in Native American culture, there is a kind of metaphysical aspect to this, that it may be in a sense that they feel like that they could have controlled these beings in a sense. But when I do this research, I do my best to just keep it grounded and not go too far off the edge, because it's easy to do because it's so frustrating. Because I'm out looking for something at least once a week, and it can be difficult when you're finding this evidence, footprints or hair or a kill, something like that, and then not have a logical explanation for it. So it's really easy to jump to the metaphysical side, but I cannot, in my opinion, I can't prove the metaphysical side of it. It's something that, in my opinion, that humans just can't comprehend right now. Maybe in the future we will be able to. I think a lot of it we're jumping ahead in trying to understand things that we just physically cannot comprehend. And even with my ghost side of the research. I try not to go too far into the deep end with it, and understanding exactly what's happening, and feeling like I can control it. There's a lot of people who uh, claim to be able to cleanse areas, to be able to get rid of these evil spirits or this evil that's happening. I personally, and I'm not saying that they can't. I'm not saying that it's hogwash. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is, me personally, I don't believe that we can control that stuff, much less even understand it. So, with the idea of the Dogman and the Bigfoot being some sort of metaphysical tie, um, that's a rabbit hole that I just try to stay away from.
Yeah, because I've heard stories. I have a friend of mine who did this huge episode where a witch had Bigfoot almost like as a familiar. And
Really?
yeah, she was able to call upon it, and it would start, you'd hear it whooping back or whatever it was in the woods. And she's like, oh, there he is, and he brought a couple friends with him. And again, who knows if it was Bigfoot or if it was maybe something else, right? Something,
Right.
Who knows? Like you said, metaphysical. And that is a rabbit hole that is a very deep one. And another thing I wanted to talk to you about was tell me a little bit about the feral people of Appalachia.
Feral people. So, okay, we can go down this rabbit hole. Okay, so this is actually something that when I initially put that video out there, I didn't think that it was going to get as much tension as it did, because this is a storyline. I don't want to say storyline, but that's how this has been passed down, from generation to generation. And you were pointing out with your when you were talking about the dog attacks, okay, and you didn't understand how more people were not responding to that. Um, well, it's because it's kind of just a part of the culture. It's one thing that is okay that we don't talk about this stuff. We don't go further deeper into it. And then when I brought up talking about the feral people, everybody just kind of got really excited about it, because here I was, an East Tennessee guy who knew the stories of these feral people, and I'm bringing it to the forefront. I'm actually discussing it, because if you talk to any of my generation or the generation before me, and you ask them about people living in the woods, they will 100% agree with you. And it's not in a sense that it's a negative thing, but it's just a recognition of those things, of those people being out there. Now, the question is, are those feral people part of civilized society that wanted to get off the grid, go out into the woods, and they return to their animal instincts? Or is this a generation of people who have been living in the woods, that has managed to stay out of the public eye? And the Appalachian Mountain chain is massive. I mean, it goes from Georgia to Maine. There are tons of unexplored areas there that people just don't go into. There is, and on the people leaving the population, the civilized population, a lot of them ran from the law. A lot of them ran to the Appalachians to avoid going to war. And we have documentation of this happening as early as the Civil War. So it's very possible that those people continued to breed outside of, civilized society. There's also the Native American aspect of it, which this is what I'm about to say is solely based off of research. Okay. This is just what I have from talking to different people. I am not saying this is a factual statement. I'm not trying to, talk about negative about the Native American people in any way. But when the Native Americans were being pushed out of their land, from what I have gathered, a lot of them, rather than fleeing to, go towards out west, they hid deeper in the Appalachians. And in order for their population, for their Native American bloodline to continue, they practiced inbreeding. Now, there is um, theories that these feral people are are a result of the Native Americans being forced from their land and hiding in the Appalachians, and just generation after generation was born of a kind of a single inbred type of species. So, with that aspect of it, it's that kind of, actually, I'm not going to say that. So, there is just tons of evidence of people, leaving civilized society. I mean, just look at the boom. Hell, look at the boom that's happening in East Tennessee. It's part of human nature. When we get pushed to a limit where we don't like our surroundings, our instinct is to run to the woods. You know, there are there's mental health issues. There's a variety of reasons of why people could go out in these woods and live off the land and possibly retreat back to just our feral animal instincts.
There is that wouldn't be too far fetched, and I mean I don't think that would be, in my opinion, offensive to say that, because I mean it makes sense
Right.
from my point of view, where yeah, they would be pushed. I mean, they were literally obliterated. There was a genocide here in
Yeah.
Florida, and with the Seminole Wars and everything, they were trying to literally
Yeah.
get rid of an entire
Yeah.
population of people. So
Right.
by them going deeper into the woods, and how you're saying practicing inbreeding because they have to keep everyone alive. That
Right.
could look at the movies. I think that movies hold a lot of messages, and when you look at the movies like The Hills Have Eyes, where it's like these
Yeah.
mutants of, again, inbreeding. Not saying that this is the case here, but there's movies about it where it's just like that. There's a whole bunch of mutants, and they're living in The Hills Have Eyes, right? If
Yeah.
anyone's
Yeah.
seen those movies, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me, man. And there are people who live off grid. I know people who live off grid in the mountains in different areas. And how you're saying, but is there any encounters, how the ones that I mentioned, as far as, or can you clump them all together, of like this feral person attacking a person and perhaps unaliving them or whatever the case may be?
So,
Is there any reports?
um, there has been, and I am about to go to the location where this occurred. Um, so I had a individual reach out to me whose son had served in the army, was a flight medic, and had gotten out of the army and went to move back to North Carolina, and was working as a flight medic for his local EMTs, or I'm not sure exactly, your local rescue squad. He one day got a call that there was a man that had looked like he'd been living in the woods, that had basically passed out on the side of the road next to this telephone pole. Well, the local dispatch had called in, and they sent the helicopter out to pick up this man because he was severely disfigured, was covered in ticks, and just had exposure really bad. And when the medic had brought him to the Chapel Hill Hospital, he was really fascinated with this case. So he was, kind of checking in and was able to get a look at the chart. On the chart, it was highlighted multiple times severe inbreeding. Also on the chart, they had indicated that the individual that they had picked up off of the side of the road had a disease that was a result of consuming human brain tissue on human flesh. Now, this disease is called kuru. We had there was a documented, and I've looked this up, there was a documented case of it in the United States. So this kind of validated that story. Now, we thought that kuru had basically been eradicated, because the last active case that they had found was actually in Papua New Guinea. So in Papua New Guinea, the local tribesmen, as a result of a funeral procession or a funeral ceremony, would actually consume the dead individual. Now, in all of our brains, we have this certain type of protein that when a non-infected person eats that, then you start to develop kuru, which is a neurological disorder that starts attacking your muscles and basically shuts your brain, your bodily functions down. So I felt like this case was really important because it kind of checks those boxes. We're always kind of wondering whether or not these feral people are actually cannibalistic, for one, and two, is it a result of inbreeding? We actually have a person, a documented case of this person, who was severely inbred, that was carrying this disease. So whether or not, I'm not saying that this individual was unaliving people, or it was a result of some sort of other ritualistic practice or whatever. But the fact of the matter is he had this disease. The only way to get this disease is from eating another human being. So
yeah, you can't rule it out. And I'm thinking right now of Ochese Pond Wildman. Ever heard about that in Florida?
Yeah, actually I have. Yeah.
Where it's making me think of that, where they found this hairy man that they believe was probably a Bigfoot that they had in prison and put in a was it an insane asylum? But then when they went to go check the records, he was never there, right? I mean, the government would go to a certain lengths to cover this up. And why do you think that the government is trying to hide this from the people, and that's why they don't acknowledge it? Like right now we have the whole disclosure thing with the UFO and how people are saying that's a psyop. What are your thoughts on that? Is the government withholding this information because they know about it and they're trying to hold it back from the public?
So in order to explain my opinions on how the government's interaction is with this, I mean, obviously you got to go back to Roswell. Roswell was like the first definitive, what is considered a cover up was. I mean, hell, Area 51 wasn't even actually recognized as being on the planet until what, like 2005 or something like that. So, with Roswell, when Roswell happened, it was at a time where Americans were under a lot of pressure, as a result of the world wars. Um, there was a lot of stuff going on. So during that time, a lot of people were using their faith in religion essentially to hold themselves together. If you had all of a sudden in the middle of this, when you have massive death happening across the United States as a result of, the wars and people trying to deal with that psychologically, and them turning to religion as a means of just, getting through the day, you introduce the fact that there are aliens out there, you're going to make the population lose their freaking mind. So they had to cover it up. Okay. They had to. It just as a means of population control. Now, what speed forward to, modern day, science is all about being able to reproduce, your results. With these Bigfoots, with Dogman, it's really difficult to reproduce the results. Even like in the state of Tennessee, for example, we say that we do not have mountain lions roaming around East Tennessee. That's what the official statement is, from the state. Okay, but if you live in East Tennessee, you know that there are mountain lions here. You know that there are black panthers here. But there is no way for the state or the government to actually go out and reproduce these findings. And then something interesting happened in 2016 when Donald Trump was elected. So Donald Trump was an American, he was a citizen that stepped out of the civilian side of this and into the government side of it. And if you think about it, what was one of the first things that Donald Trump did? He started Space Force, like immediately. Immediately. It's kind of like one of those situations where you walk in and, it's just like, holy crap. You mean y'all are not doing anything about this? Like, we don't have some sort of plan in place? Like, are you serious? So to me, that really kind of showed that this stuff is out here, and the government has a role in trying to keep the population from totally losing their mind and them lose, because if the general population one day found out, and actually Bigfoot was recently recognized on like the endangered species list. Did you
Really?
notice that?
No, hold on. What'd
Yeah,
you say? Bigfoot?
Bigfoot is officially recognized now.
Let's check this out. I haven't.
Yeah, yeah, you
So,
gotta look it up.
what in the world? Hold on.
Yeah,
Bigfoot is
so
endangered species since 2018, I guess.
yeah, so they're kind of dropping it as little morsels for us to slowly be able to consume and slowly understand. I mean, you can go on Congress.gov's website and read about crafts that they have that can travel through space, air, water, and even dimensions. Like, I mean, it's on Congress's website. Like, that information, it's out there. And so it's hard, I think, for the general population and um, the government to be able to rationalize this while keeping, you know, control of everybody. So I think that they're definitely limiting a lot of the information as regards to it. Like you just have to look for it to be able to find out if it's real. So
Yeah, I mean that's a very yeah. So there's a whole bunch of things on it. I can't really pinpoint exactly when it happened, but I saw something here where it says that Bigfoot was in 1965. Bigfoot was added to the endangered species list in Russia.
yeah,
Germany and France followed in suit in 1967. So this has been an actual thing for quite a long time. And the idea
right,
that how you're saying that they're recognizing it, I mean, if it was all fake, why would they
right,
recognize it at all, right? I mean, there's something to
yeah,
that. And I think that there is something to the phenomenon. And I talk about phenomenology where it's the experience is real. That experience that that person is going through is real, regardless of what anybody says. Now,
for sure.
how you said we can get lost in the sauce to say that, oh, is it metaphysical? Is it not? Because I do think that there is some aspect of it that involves in some cases the warping of people's reality. How you said that you were being called, you almost like a magnetic force of that rock or whatever it was in that area, almost like a portal was calling you. And then you have the aspect of people going missing. Well, what if the feral people are taking them, right? Like there's like so many different ways that
Yeah,
you you know what I mean, bro? Like
yeah,
it's crazy.
yeah, man. Yeah, for sure, for sure. It's yeah, it's a rabbit hole, man. And like I had really gotten into it, and I've always been into it. Like my mom was into the paranormal, and then I had moved into this old house. What really made me start wanting to show people that there's something else out there. I had moved into this old house, and this it was from like the 1890s, and in East Tennessee during the summer it is hot and humid. Um, and I was sitting on my couch in my living room, and in this old house that the air conditioner didn't work very well, so it was hot in the house. And I'm looking down my hallway, and I see this black mass at the end of my hallway, and I actually at first think that somebody has broken into my house. So I jump up and I take off running down the end of the hallway, and thinking like I'm about to fight somebody. And by the time I get to the end of the hallway, it's so cold that I can actually see my breath. And that's kind of what really made me feel like I needed to get out and show that. And that's where my name comes from, is Black Mass Paranormal, because it was from an experience that I had from seeing this black mass. And there's a lot to our world that we don't understand. And I think it's important for people to recognize that and be okay with it. We live it now in a society where everybody feels like they know everything and they can argue over everything because they feel like they can just Google anything, regardless of how they're feeling, and get some sort of answer to it. Well, this type of stuff you can't exactly just get an answer to. You have to, in my opinion, you got to get out there and look. And growing up in this area, like spending my time in the mountains and in the woods and on the water, I've experienced a lot of stuff. So it's and I want to I want to share that with people, not only for you know to make everybody realize that this stuff is out there, but so people will be able to handle themselves a little bit better once they experience something like this. Because a lot of people can get themselves in trouble when you go into the forest and you see something you're unsure of. um, you know Add on like a dogman face to it, you're going to lose your mind and you're going to get yourself hurt no matter what it is. So it's important, I think, for people to realize that stuff. So and proceed with caution.
I absolutely think that there is a reality overlaid on top of ours. And I mean, I'm
Oh,
real big into
100%.
I'm real big into alchemy, and we talked about CERN earlier. Well, they wouldn't be clashing atoms together, whatever an atom is to begin with, right? Because we know an atom reacts
Right.
differently when it's being observed versus when it's not. They wouldn't be doing that
Right.
just because they're doing that
Right.
because they understand that it causes an effect either on the macro
Yeah.
scale or micro scale. So I do think that there is more than meets the eye. And I'm thinking right now, do you have any stories of like gnomes or little people in the Tennessee area? Because there's a place here, I did an episode on it, the Bach Tower Garden Gnomes, the Bach Tower
Yeah.
Garden, and here in Florida, and it's on top of a mountain that's called Iron Mountain, and the lure goes that it's like some magnetic anomaly in that mountain, maybe
Uh-huh.
hinting at some sort of portal or something. Is there any stories of like little people or gnomes?
1000%. Yeah. It goes all the way back to the Cherokee folklore. The Cherokee recognize them as well. It starts with a T. I don't want to butcher the name, but it's TSU. But essentially, it was a group of these tiny people that were living in the woods, and they were often known for causing mischief. Um, I actually did a story about an old uh, buddy of mine, JD. He was a moonshiner, and he used to always complain about dealing with these things because they would always come mess with his equipment. Like he would leave us still, overnight, and or during he would leave us still during the day, and he would come back and like his elbows would be like in the trees and stuff would be like all scattered around, and he always used to complain about how they would mess with him, to a point where at one time he said that they actually attacked him, but I don't I don't know if it was a combination of the moonshine or what, but his shins were all busted up, and like it was kind of a funny turn to this. But yeah, man, I, I don't know if the little people are still active. Um, I kind of feel like that have might have been something that was lost with time as well. Because the experiences you don't really hear too many experiences of the little people anymore. My buddy JD, he was older, and it's a possibility that they're still out there, but I think that they definitely were at some point.
And this is shout out to Waking Up with Analog, because it's a friend of mine who pulls up a lot of old newspapers. But we have here the Morristown Gazette, April 5th,
Yeah.
1876, talking about the Tennessee pygmies here.
Yep.
And apparently there was in Kentucky, the giants to whom the bones recently discovered in Kentucky cave are said to have belonged. So it's talking about giants, and it's talking about, let's see here we can
Yeah.
pick up some. Wow, the mound builders have been subject to the Aztecs, Chinese, the Egyptians, the Kentucky Giants. The discovery of the pygmies
Yep.
is, however, so very recent that no one has yet framed any theory whatever to account for their origin and to explain their complete extinction. Wow. Okay. So yeah, we have the newspaper from 1876 talking about pygmies, bro, in Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it was at Morristown.
The Morristown Gazette, yeah, the pygmy
Yeah.
grave in Tennessee,
Yeah.
an ancient graveyard of
Yeah.
vast proportions, was found in Coffee County. Where's that at, bro?
Coffee County, I think, is actually near Morristown.
Similar to the White County and other places in Middle Tennessee, but is vastly more extensive and shows that the race of pygmies who once inhabited this county were very numerous. Because in the there's estimated that there were about 75,000 to 100,000 buried there. Okay, so
That's wild.
The story
Yeah,
goes,
that's more towards Middle Tennessee. Yeah,
oh, Central Tennessee, because Tennessee's pretty big.
yeah. Oh yeah, it's huge. You can drive for like 7 hours and still be in the same state.
The lure of the gnomes of Bach Tower Gardens is that there was this these orange groves, right, that were next to it. And
Okay.
when they started, the farmers that had the grove started to notice that there were missing oranges. There was like oranges missing, or like, yo, either someone's stealing it or like animals are eating, but it was like a large amount. And apparently one day they saw this little, I forget the size of it, but we interviewed the author of the one that got the story, and they had managed to capture one of these little men. It was like a little man, and they put it in one of the crates, and they took it down to the police station. Right? They took it down to the police station, and turns out that back to where they had picked it up at, all these little gnomes came out, and they were attacking the house of the farmer that was there because they wanted their boy back. But you know,
Yeah.
they brought him back, and then allegedly they had brought this stone from Ireland, this blessed stone from somewhere, Ireland or Scotland or something, and they put it in the center of the grove there, and apparently that drove away the little gnomes, bro. But the gnomes started to attack, almost like, what's that movie,
Wow.
Gulliver's Travels, where the little
Yeah.
small people come out and they start attacking. It's similar to that,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. Is all I'm saying, that there's these stories, and it comes to show that there's something more going on.
Well, one thing I do find a lot, and it's so weird, and I don't really have an explanation for it, but you'll see in a couple of my videos. I'll be out hiking, and I'll be out in the middle of freaking nowhere, and I'll find a little garden gnome, like just sitting next to a tree.
What do you think
Like
that is,
it's
bro?
weird. Dude, I don't know. I mean, I would assume it would be somebody, just messing around, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I've never really looked at them too close. I just see it and I'm like, oh, there's another stupid garden gnome. Why do people keep putting them out here? But
Hmm.
I, I don't know.
Or maybe they're being
I'm gonna
stolen.
have to, yeah, possibly. I'm gonna have to look into that, man. I'd love to go out and look for some little people. That would be cool. I'd like to get some more information on that and go out in the woods, see what I can find. I mean, it's what I'm all about. So, yeah,
Yeah, and out here the Everglades, bro. I mean, there we have the Everglades pig people, that it was supposed to be this
yeah,
experiment by the government gone wrong. And the Everglades, there's something about these vast open areas that is, I believe, is a hotspot for portal activity. And I think that these portals open up and things fall in and out of other existences or other realities, and they're but then there's the aspect of that it can kind of cross willingly.
mm,
And I think that, for example, my opinion on Dogman is that I think that it was some alchemical experiment gone wrong. And also,
yeah,
because it's something about it where whenever I hear a story about it, it's almost like it's out for vengeance. It's out for blood. It's out to really inflict pain on whatever it is, almost like it's angry or maybe demonic, bro.
right.
I don't even know how to explain it. Almost like a demonic entity of some
Well,
sort.
it's also very unnatural. The way people talk about seeing this thing move, even it's very unnatural.
They
Like
say
it looks like
calculated,
it's
right?
always been
What does that even mean when they say
right.
it's moving very calculated? It's like an automaton or what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that, or like its body formation is not what it should be to be able to move, on our Earth's plane anyway,
Mm.
the way that it should. So that could be it. But yeah.
And to wrap up, bro, what's next? What are you investigating that's coming up here soon? Any interesting tips that you've had with the channel? What's going on?
Um,
What's next for your channel, dude?
well, actually, right now I am working on proving the existence of Black Panthers, and East Tennessee. I just released a video. It was scheduled to go out at 7:15 tonight, so it's up right now. But on top of that, so I've got a part two to that I'm doing, because it kind of falls. I know people like, well, that's not necessarily paranormal because we have Black Panthers, in Mexico, but for this
Are you talking about
side,
the
my
big cats, though,
thinking,
right?
yeah, the big cats,
Big
because
cats, yeah.
there's reports of seeing, there's lots of reports of people seeing this thing.
Yeah.
So to me, by going out and trying to find evidence of this cat, it will kind of open up people's thinking to the existence of other things. It's like trying to take baby steps. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so if we can determine that this cat that we know is not supposed to be here is here, who's to say that there's something else not there? So I'm doing a lot more with the feral people, and I'm going to Kentucky, to investigate the land between the lakes. I've got the actual location where that attack supposedly happened. So I'm going to try to go there, investigate, see what I can find. And this Saturday, I'm actually going to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary to do a ghost type investigation. But I'm going to try to get in the woods if I can.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about before you go about that? Because I know we talked about it before we started recording, and we didn't talk about it on air.
So Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary was known as kind of the Siberia of the United States. Because of its location, they would put the most dangerous people in this prison. The James Earl Ray was there. There's several just horrific people that were put at Brushy Mountain, and it's supposedly considered to be one of the most haunted locations for ghost activity in the United States. It's kind of like the mecca for doing ghost hunting, and I'm doing so many other things that I had this opportunity come up. I'm going to end up getting access to the high max section of the prison and some other really cool things that a lot of people have not been able to see before, and go in there and see if I can find something. It's a scary place. It was in a way, they had, okay, so the prisoners alone were forced to go work in the coal mines that are behind the prison. Okay, if they did not meet their expected goal, they would be brutally beaten and tortured so they would produce more. I think it was 2/3 of the African American population had contracted some form, I want to say it's hepatitis, that would basically kill them. There is just death throughout that entire prison, and it happened for death and torture. I mean, if you're looking for that overlap that you were talking about, because I believe that too, and I think that is kind of an explanation for a lot of haunting activity that happens. I kind of believe that there's like two planes or multiple, not necessarily. I try to view it as two planes, because if you get into too many, you get way off track. But certain things happen over time, and they are meant to happen, and they continue to happen over and over and over again. And that is what this haunting activity that we're experiencing actually is. Now, is it possible during that point that you experience some sort of spiritual activity? Um, is it, are we the ghosts or are they the ghosts? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, bro.
So that's kind of the way I view it. And one thing that I've come to realize that in a lot of these situations where hauntings actually occur, it required a massive amount of energy. So, like in a situation where somebody was killed in a very, horrific way, that energy is still existing, and that energy that was released at that point, we might be able to go back and you know measure that in some way. Um, but yeah,
No, absolutely, bro. There is that does have connections with some philosophies of people. For example, Al-Kindi, one of these philosophers that I talk about from the 9th century, he talked about how sacrifice, the reason that it was used for the gods and used to for religious purposes or occult purposes, if you will, is because the snuffing out of that, everything is emanating a ray of light. I'm emanating a ray of light.
yeah,
A plant is emanating a ray of light. An animal is emanating a ray of light. And when you snuff that light out, right,
right,
this light that's connected to the celestial spheres or space or wherever it goes, when you snuff that light out, you're able to use that energy from snuffing that light out for whatever religious purpose or occult magical purpose, whatever it is. And the practitioner is
yeah,
able to harness that energy. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense, where if somebody is, that light was snuffed out, and not only that, but violently,
yeah,
and the emotions were high, the hot, whatever, et cetera, you're able
yeah,
to harness that or tap into that later, because essentially that things sometimes happen in these prisons just because they're not using it for occult purposes. So
right,
maybe that energy stayed there, and you come by,
still there,
Brian, and you're trying to tap into
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Man,
man.
that's
So
that's dark.
it's interesting. It's a cool place. But I love doing like exploring like old buildings and stuff like that too. So plus, it's a prison. It's a massive prison. It's like in the mountains, like one road in, one road out. Like, it's and from what I know, I don't think that they've done a whole lot of. I was there like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, um, and what I remember, they had made a moonshine distillery where you could go and drink some moonshine and go walk around the prison. But the prison itself was pretty much still in the state that it was in when it was abandoned and shut down.
There's a
So
distillery on the property we can go drink moonshine.
yeah,
Wow.
yep,
I have to check that out. That's gonna be. We could probably
yeah.
go. I won't go in the prison with you, but I'll go drink moonshine, bro.
You drink some
Whenever,
moonshine.
yeah, whenever I go to Tennessee again. But yeah,
Yeah,
dude, I don't know, man.
yeah,
I wish you the
yeah,
best of
dude,
luck when it comes to this sort of stuff. I just stay safe, dude. You know what I mean? Like, take a
for sure,
cross or something
for
out there.
sure.
I don't know, man. Whatever you do, I don't know if you have a
Well,
ritual that you
I,
do.
I listen. I listen to my gut, man. A person's instinct is so important and so real that a lot of people overlook it. And that would be my best advice to anybody for any purpose. Just listen to your instinct. We have this natural God given ability to be able to navigate this world, and it's not just you know for just simple uses. It's we have abilities that we don't understand yet. So yeah,
Absolutely, bro. And before we log off, do you want to leave the people with any last words or plug your stuff again so people can find you and check out your channel?
Sure. Yeah. So if you all are interested in the paranormal and finding out more about our existence, mainly focused in Appalachia, you can go to my YouTube channel, Black Mass Paranormal. You can follow me there. I do a lot of outdoor investigations. I do both daytime and nighttime. I use thermal cameras. I use some good equipment. I'm a very technical person, so I try not to overreact in most of my situations. I try to keep my cool, but at the same time, I listen to my intuition and I get myself out of situations before things get bad. But yeah, you should come check me out. I've got some cool things coming up, so y'all can learn more.
Awesome. And I'll send me your links, bro, whichever ones you want me to put out there. This was fun. We should do it again. And I don't know, man, maybe I'll go out with you one of these days
sure.
when I head over to Tennessee, and maybe we can go look for Bigfoot. I don't want to look for Dogman. I want to look for Bigfoot because he seems like a cooler guy.
Well, I mean, I know where Bigfoot is, yeah, and I'll get you some real Tennessee moonshine. I mean, I'm not hating on the distillery version, but there's something different about moonshine being made in the woods than there is made in a like a building. So yeah, man, I'll get you some of that stuff too.
Awesome, bro.
Saying.
This was fun, bro, and we'll do it again soon, man.